Well, this group comes from the Innovation and Design class, which is mostly MSCM students, but there's a few other grads and a few other undergrads as a part of it. The goal of the class is to find problems that are worth solving and then spend a semester actually solving them and writing the business case for it. And the group that you will hear today, Personics, was an excellent example of that class, and of course won the business plan competition in the general business category. Personics is a software tool which aims to help product managers make better decisions by analyzing customer discovery interviews, which can number in the tens, hundreds, thousands, and to do that using a technological approach. And as this team has done, and as is the goal of the class, to find a technological and a market insight in a problem that is worth solving. And with that, I will turn it over to the team.
Thank you for the lovely introduction, Dr. Ehrenheim.
Yeah, I can start sharing my screen.
Yeah, go ahead. To make a new product managers spend hundreds of hours talking to people in the discovery phase to develop new ideas that they then build out and take to market. However, product managers still make really bad decisions because they are often forced to cut corners in the discovery phase. Due to a lack of time and resources, they don't talk to enough people, don't hear what they need, and get the wrong idea because their biases get in the way. It can be devastating to have your project fail because you were forced to take shortcuts. Imagine you worked so hard for the past 10 months and you had to convince so many people to believe in what you thought was a good idea, only to have it released and no one uses it. Why? Because you were wrong about the customer problem all along. If only there was a better way to do this. And with that, we'd like to introduce Personics. At Personics, we believe that the best products start with a meaningful conversation. So what do we do exactly? We analyze customer conversations to extract product decision insights. Essentially, we're bringing together human intelligence and machine intelligence in a new way to help product managers do something they can't do nearly as effectively without us. This allows us to overhaul the discovery phase, saving product managers time and resources, improving their communication, and reducing the effect of biases. Our software uses deep learning and natural language processing to extract product decision insights from customer conversations. The software goes through our proprietary summarization model, then runs sentiment analysis and topic modeling to highlight customer pain points. A major competitive advantage of our software is a unique abstractive summarization model. This model takes a clean transcript and attention mechanism and runs it through a recursive neural network to output an executive summary for our software to use. So what does this actually look like? Let's take a look at our prototype. Log into our easy-to-use platform and let Personics do the work. All you have to do is drag or drop your audio files, and our software will automatically analyze all of your customer conversations for you. Personics then creates an executive summary highlighting customer pain points to help product managers build customer personas and make better product decisions. You can even go back to search for direct quotes so you can easily communicate insights across different teams. By playing back customer quotes, you can convince your superiors of your customers' needs using their own words. Finally, you can export your executive summary by PDF or email to share your insights with different teams. Using Personics, product managers can get the right product to the right market faster. Without Personics, the only options product managers have are to analyze conversations manually or hire a consultant. Other software tools such as Observe, Chorus, and Medallia focus primarily on sales and marketing. Personics is the first and only conversation analysis tool of its kind, designed specifically to bring value to product managers in the product discovery phase. Because our deep learning model is designed and trained specifically to analyze product discovery interviews, it will be very difficult for our competitors to replicate our functionality without restraining their models. Unlike our competitors, Personics can be used to create customer personas and drive successful product decisions. We know that this problem desperately needs a solution because we live the problem ourselves and we know it firsthand. In a consulting project for Danfoss, a global leader in the HVAC industry, we had to analyze over 60 hours of customer interviews by hand, and it sucked. We realized that the problems mainly lie in time, communication, and bias. We know that Personics is a better way. And turns out, we're not alone. To validate our problem, we spoke to over 40 product managers across a variety of different industries in companies such as Microsoft, Motorola, Google, and more. All of our interviewees told us that they face the exact same problems. We also learned that on average, 20 to 35% of a product manager's time goes to the discovery phase, where they schedule, conduct, and analyze interviews. 2/3 of that goes towards analyzing customer conversations and extracting key themes. Using Personix, the average product manager can cut their discovery phase time by 10 weeks per year. That's almost 20% of a product manager's total time. We went back and showed our prototype to 20 product managers, and 100% of them believed in our solution and registered to hear more about our beta program. And we already have our first user. We secured a working agreement with a product manager from Microsoft, where they send us interviews for us to analyze and extract insights from. This agreement serves as a great test to our working proof of concept. Personix is a B2B software as a service company that offers its services via a subscription model. Our end users are product teams that frequently conduct customer interviews to develop product decisions. We will charge customers $5,000 per month, which can scale depending on data use. And we've already met significant milestones that show that we're on the right track. We developed our prototype and conducted over 40 customer interviews. We secured our first user and will work full time to develop our MVP to be ready by June. We're incorporating this month, and we plan to launch our beta version by December. This year will be spent developing partnerships to grow the company. In 2022, we plan to start charging our customers a smaller fee to use our beta version. We aim to get 35 users throughout the year and introduce a team collaboration feature and quantitative reports. This year will be aimed towards strengthening our customer relations and preparing our product for official launch. In 2023, we officially launched Personix. We plan to add 75 new users, add interviewer training, and an interview assistance tool. This year is aimed towards generating revenues to become a net positive enterprise. We are a team of students in the Masters of Engineering Management program at Johns Hopkins. We are a diverse team with a variety of technical backgrounds and expertise that has already gained a lot of traction. We are dedicated to this venture and plan to work full time during the summer and once we graduate from Hopkins. Our team has the skills, the drive, and the passion to push Personix to the next level. And best of all, we're advised by very talented individuals that have experienced this problem themselves in one way or another. Manuel especially is a prime example of what our customer base looks like. He's a product manager with over 7 years of experience. He's been helping us with his guidance and mentorship, and he shares the same problems we saw in the market. He needs a product like Personix. And here, I'd like to pause to thank Professor Ehrenheim for introducing us to Manuel, who's also a JHU alumni, for guiding us throughout the project and for advising us on how to make this as real as we can, as fast as we can. This amazing experience started as a project in the Innovation and Business Design course under the guidance of Professor Ehrenheim. It was one of the best experiences we've ever had at Hopkins. A startup experience under the safety net and guidance of our professors at the MSEM department is exactly what we needed. It was truly life-changing for me personally and for my team as a whole. Simply put, product managers have a major problem that no one has addressed yet, and we have the answer. We have the validation, the solution, and the team to execute it. We believe that we can make a difference because with Personix, every conversation matters. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon for those in Europe and elsewhere. So my name is Rob Murray. I look after the innovation unit at NATO headquarters in Brussels, where I work on the Secretary General's staff. And really, I just wanted to really sort of highlight just probably 2 or 3 things with regards to some of the NATO projects that students have been looking at and working on over the last few weeks and months. And for us, certainly at NATO headquarters here in Brussels, engagement with students is hugely important. And I say that not in a sort of a glib way at all, but to really provide insight and perspective and angles which we simply don't see or perhaps have biases that prevent us from engaging with. And being able to work with students which don't come from the traditional backgrounds of political science and international relations, which is, I would suggest, where it is normally the place where sort of NATO and other international institutions tend to look, is even better because it creates a diversity of thought which otherwise doesn't really become achieved. So it's hugely important to us, and hopefully it's also some of the projects that students have been looking at are also hugely sort of worthwhile and engaging as well. Specifically for the 2 areas that are going to be discussed in a moment, the notions of cognitive warfare and biotechnologies as well. This is really quite sort of forward-leaning frontier type thinking. the way in which sort of great power competition is shifting around the world, and we can see this in different ways, so I won't sort of labor the point now, and the ways in which new technologies are driving new ways of thinking about warfare and the character of conflict, is presenting all sorts of challenges which, quite frankly, we haven't really had to grapple with well, for a very, very long time. So being able to sort of pick the brains of some of the finest students at one of the best universities that is out there is hugely beneficial from our perspective. And I would say that the team have done a fantastic job on both of these areas. And with that, I will stop waffling on and hand the floor for the team to be able to describe their various activities. Who's going first?
All right, yeah, so thank you, Rob, for that introduction. My name is Kathy, and I'll be presenting today with Will and Alex on this new concept called cognitive warfare. So today we'll cover what cognitive warfare is and kind of a multifaceted solution that we've come up with to address the problem. And our proposed solution has a technical component in the form of a dashboard, as well as a policy-oriented component. Finally, we'll recognize our collaborators from other universities that we worked with over the semester. So kind of what is cognitive warfare? We believe that cognitive warfare should be considered a new type of warfare that is kind of a non-kinetic warfare, meaning that it's fought without traditional physical weapons. And instead, cognitive warfare involves coordinated campaigns that aim to take advantage of pre-existing societal and ideological vulnerabilities. So for example, perpetrators of cognitive warfare may try to exacerbate polarizing biases among different groups that in a society, or they may encourage dissent to destabilize the society. And this kind of activity is facilitated by advancements in technology with the current state of media. So with the way that information can spread so quickly nowadays, and with how well social media algorithms seem to work, it's becoming easier and easier to influence a target population with far fewer resources required than traditional conflicts. And cognitive warfare's potential lies in its ability to undermine a society's collective will without these traditional kinetic strategies. These campaigns are able to achieve this by influencing the thoughts and the actions of targeted populations. So this matrix on the right shows a way to visualize how cognitive warfare campaigns progress. So actions can be classified as influencing broad populations, or even individuals who hold power, such as in government, the economy, or within society. And at the same time, cognitive warfare activity can be classified as influencing thought, or as it progresses more severely, it can influence actions. So cognitive warfare typically uses a combined arms approach, where technologies from different non-kinetic spaces are used. For example, sensitive information may be hacked using cyber techniques, and then that information may be released strategically on social media. In this release, psychological strategies may be used in the timing of the information's release, or perhaps the wording in the news stories written about them. So we'd like to emphasize that cognitive warfare is not false information. And while false information may be used as one method of cognitive warfare, it's not the focus of this particular project. Because a cognitive warfare campaign may be run using only true information. And I'll let Alex talk about our dashboard.
Thank you, Kathy. So the solution our team has been developing to address cognitive warfare is a dashboard intended to visualize how cognitive campaigns start and how they spread. And this dashboard would integrate data from social media, websites, and news sources to provide a picture of attacks across the world. And if you look at this image on the left, this is a design of the user interface for the dashboard, which might show how different nations are facing influence efforts. This is focused just on Europe, but we intend for the scope of this project to be global, to look at the entire world. We anticipate using a range of confidence that a campaign exists and is ongoing. As you can see with the colors on the map, that a darker color would indicate that we are more confident that a cognitive warfare campaign is occurring within that nation. These campaigns can be visualized by their narrative or pattern, with network analysis, or with geography. So this is the geographical view of that dashboard. We are working now to set the dashboard up to be functional for an operator to see continuous streams of data and analyze that data with the dashboard tools. Data analysis provides valuable insights from machine learning algorithms to recognize patterns between inauthentic and authentic activity. You see the image on the right. This shows how an article spreads across the internet, which has a distinct shape over time. The shape of an organic spread would look different from an engineered spread of information. Information that we gather from this allows us to identify campaigns and then further categorize them. Adversaries often have established patterns to their campaigns, and when those are identified, it allows us to attribute an effort to a nation or organization. This information can then be used to offer policy recommendations that can be specifically shaped to match those patterns.
So from our research, we've identified 3 overarching policy recommendations that we think would be effective in combating cognitive warfare. The first of these is transparency, and this deals with clear and reasoned explanations of policy decisions. So whether these are from a nation's government or an international organization, increased transparency will provide citizens with the clarification of the reasoning behind decisions, which helps enforce citizens' trust in these institutions. And since cognitive warfare can be waged with true information, increasing transparency has the potential to de-weaponize both truthful and falsified information released at strategic times. The second policy recommendation we have is educational efforts. And this would involve further investments and emphases on efforts surrounding cognitive warfare. These educational efforts should provide citizens with the skills to form their own conclusions so that they'll be able to identify when they might be seeing a cognitive warfare campaign and to help them resist efforts to influence their thoughts and actions. The third of our policy recommendations is non-action. An example of this would be if there was an information leak released at a strategic time. If you take a principle of non-action, citizens should be able to easily find information clarifying the nature of these leaks. At the same time, we would want to try to take away any attention from these campaigns if they're not quickly propagating, as drawing greater attention to them might cause further disruption. So if it's not spreading really quickly, there might not be any need to really drive any public attention towards that campaign. In addition to this, we recommend that nations facing cognitive warfare campaigns don't engage in counter campaigns, as this usually helps further the goals of the adversary, because cognitive warfare inherently just drives instability and disorder. And since cognitive warfare is a combined arms approach, we think that having all 3 of these policy recommendations work together in conjunction would help provide a very strong multi-layered defense against such a multifaceted method such as cognitive warfare. So throughout our research, our team expanded to include graduate students from Imperial College London who are pursuing master's degrees in security and resilience. They've been extremely helpful to us in helping us expand the framework we already had, as well as finding external collaborators to help with designing our dashboard. In addition to our collaborators from Imperial College London, we worked with the Stratosphere Research Laboratory from the Czech Technical University in Prague, and they're a group that specializes in cybersecurity and machine learning. And they were able to provide the technical expertise to realize both the front end and back end development of our cognitive warfare dashboard. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us discuss our research on cognitive warfare. And we'd love to answer any questions you have for us at the end of the session.
All right, so hi everyone. We are the Combating Disinformation Online team, which is sort of the subset of cognitive warfare, as Kathy was talking about. So to start off, the problem that we are basically addressing is the increasing threat of disinformation and false information online, caused by the increasing popularity of social media platforms, which has also increased due to the COVID-19 pandemic, as far as like stoking fears about the pandemic, and also inciting violence and instability, as we've all seen in the news over the past year. So basically, our team has designed a sort of proof of concept as a solution for how we believe that NATO could address this problem to decrease the threat of disinformation online within NATO states. So yeah, first we started off with some case studies. So to start off, we analyze the efforts that social media companies are currently putting forth to mitigate disinformation on their platforms. So as you can see, these are 12 of the most popular social media platforms worldwide, and we analyzed the different methods that they use to combat disinformation on their platforms. So as you can see, some of the most popular strategies are in-house human fact-checking, third-party fact-checking, and yeah, so yeah, also it's worth noting that our circuit breaker approach does use this slowing down of sharing strategy, and there are a couple of companies that already use this, such as YouTube, TikTok, and Snapchat, as you can see. But yeah, so we use this to sort of guide us and see where we wanted to take things and the shortcomings that social media companies currently have in their approaches to combating disinformation on their platforms. So next, we took a look at what governments are doing to combat disinformation within their countries. So there are several different countries which are sort of leading the way in terms of disinformation policy, most notably Estonia, France, and Germany. So we looked at the different strategies that they are using to mitigate the spread of disinformation within their states, as far as like task forces and software, as you can see. So notably, Estonia has been using software to help identify disinformation online since 2018, which they then use a task force to sort of analyze and respond to. But yeah, so we evaluated this effectiveness based on available data, and it is worth noting that some of these like boxes, which are currently light green, some of that is just because it's relatively new policy and there is not a lot of data out yet for the effectiveness. So some of these boxes could like become dark green in the future. So yeah, then we started doing research into the technical challenges that could come along with the implementation of a software solution. So we looked at sort of the strategies that social media companies are using to combat disinformation. You should recognize these from a couple of slides back. But basically, we were analyzing sort of the technical challenges and whether or not the strategies address each of these separate technical challenges. So as you can see, employee fact-checking and third-party fact-checking were the most popular among social media companies. However, they really do not like address many of these technical challenges as far as providing low cost company or being automated. So as you can see, like proactive sentiment analysis and slowing down of sharing check a lot more of these boxes. They are, yeah, just better able to address a lot of these technical challenges. However, most social media companies have not implemented these strategies yet. So yeah, but it is worth noting that even these like proactive sentiment analysis and slowing down sharing would not completely be able to stand on its own right now and would have to be accompanied by a human team. So now I'm going to talk about some of the advantages and disadvantages of our solution. So some of the advantages are that it is automated and quick. It is also less costly than current methods of paying teams of hundreds of like tens of thousands of people for the bigger social media companies, at least, to manually fact check this information on their platforms. There's also less bias because we are not trying to determine whether or not this information is false. We're just looking at sentiment. Yeah. And so some of the disadvantages are that it still must be accompanied by a manual review. It also necessitates additional tools for managing false positives and negatives. And there is also still some stigma against automation, which could impede with the implementation of any product. So then we take a look at some of the policy challenges that could come along with implementing something similar to this in various native states. So these are some of the primary policy challenges that we identified. So the differences in internet infrastructure, differences in disinformation laws, market penetration of local platforms, which would mean that the tool that we developed for like Facebook or Twitter wouldn't be as useful there. Existing interests in lobbying, concerns about freedom of speech and optimization. So as you can see, we broke these down into like different indications of how ready the country would be for a software solution that we developed. So if it was very ready, so for example, like fast internet, then they would get +2 points. If it was identified as medium, they would get +1. And if it was identified as not very ready, they would get +0. And so then we added these up across the different categories for each country, and a composite score of 0 to 4 indicated unprepared, 5 to 7 less prepared, and 8 to 10 prepared. So here you can see how that looks for some of the NATO nations that we did this analysis for. So yeah, these are just a few. We did complete this for all 40 NATO nations, but as you can see, Estonia, France, the UK, and Germany here seem to be more prepared. We did identify 11 NATO nations as likely more prepared for a similar software.
Yeah, so now we can move into the technology work a little. Essentially, to accompany the conceptual work completed by the policy team, we developed a prototype dashboard to showcase what a possible solution might look like. We reference this paper by Vasugi et al. That suggests that we can use sentiment analysis as a proxy for truthfulness and virality potential. And then we found a sentiment analysis tool that works with our technology stack, and also received access to the Twitter API to fetch and query user-generated tweets. In doing so, we assessed various technologies that could be employed in an eventual solution. Next slide. Our tool is able to grab tweets by various search criteria, such as keywords, which support Boolean search operators, a filter for how long ago tweets are posted, and a threshold for how negative the sentiment of a tweet is. We then use our API key to authorize the search request. And then finally, we display the results of the chosen search criteria. For each tweet in the search results, we show the full tweet text, the present number of retweets it has, and its compound sentiment score. In addition, the results of previous searches are accessible at a later time. In the future, we may also display the approximate locations of the users when posting the tweets. Next slide. So here's a demo for how TweetWatch can be used. First, you can set the search criteria at the top by putting in your keywords and using the sliders to set a maximum sentiment threshold and how long in the past you want to search for. And then for our results, each tweet has a link to the actual tweet, full tweet text, and then we have some statistics about the tweet. Right now, we are using retweets as a measure of the popularity or spread of the tweet, but there are also other metrics that we can use and replace if needed. Also note that all 4 columns here are actually sortable. So if you're interested in something like, for example, the highest, the tweet with the highest number of retweets or the tweet with the lowest sentiment, you can do that in search really easily. Okay, so we have had some success in finding tweets of interest using our application. For example, on one occasion, when searching Ukraine, we observed a lot of distinct tweets with the same tweet body calling out various American elite. So this could be potential bot behavior. On another occasion, searching for Ukraine brought up this claim of the US advising provocative troop movements in Russia, or in Ukraine, ahead of the large troop movements from Russia. And we could not find any source for troop movements at this time, and the post history of the user also suggests they might be biased towards believing American aggression, leading us to believe this tweet may be potential misinformation. And then finally, although filtering by sentiment analysis can help find posts of interest, this filtering may not be sufficient to isolate tweets of interest and may incorrectly estimate the sentiment of some tweets. For example, the tweet shown here is not actually negative in sentiment, but our tool classified it with a score as low as -0.6. And this serves as a cautionary note to not rely only on sentiment analysis, and leads to looking at additional factors to isolate tweets of interest, such as other metadata or other NLP engines.
And speaking of other NLP engines, one notable fact about TweetWatch is the decoupled nature of the NLP engine and the application itself. This can encourage modularity, meaning that it would be reasonably feasible to swap the current engine with another solution. As such, we also surveyed the various types of NLP solutions relevant to this domain and created a matrix to place each solution into a category. Based on our assessment of solutions in each category, we produced a description characterizing the current state of each category, which is described briefly in the slide. primary takeaway from this analysis is that the existing ecosystem of NLP tools is reasonably mature and continuing to develop, and can be exploited for future use in a deployed framework. We also assess the feasibility of integrating our technology solution. We recommend the implementation of a STANAG, or a standardization agreement, among EU member countries in order to define intended use in terms for alliance technical procedures and establish precedent for communications and data management. In doing so, this would resolve any issue of linguistics or regional nuances causing different understandings of concepts such as freedom of speech or the role of government.
Yeah, so to finish up, I guess, in conclusion, like some NATO members seem to be more prepared for an anti-disinformation tool, but the majority seem to be less prepared or unprepared. The tools to make an application addressing disinformation readily exist. So existing NLP tools are reasonably mature. And also standardization efforts should emphasize coordination at a national level. So thank you everyone for listening.
This project, which was done in partnership with a company called Dynata, took place in a class called Strategies for Innovation and Growth, a required course in the Master of Science in Engineering Management program. The course is designed to give students hands-on experience working with clients on projects of strategic importance. Here, students partnered with Dynata, the world's largest first-party data and insights platform. The challenge was to identify new applications and revenue streams for an underutilized technology. Dynata Voice Services provides computer-assisted telephone interviewing, CATI, and offline sampling by conducting millions of outbound phone surveys each year. This figure doubles during US election years, and CATI generates most of the revenue for the Voice Services division. The students were charged with proposing additional revenue streams that Dynata can explore to use its CATI technology. All yours, guys.
Thanks, Pam. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. Imagine this. Your phone starts vibrating and you look down and you see that you're getting a call from a number that you don't recognize. What do you think? Most people see this and think that it's a spam caller, a telemarketer, or they simply don't recognize the number and think maybe it's a misdial. Whatever it is, we're probably not answering the phone. With so many different ways to communicate these days, that's how most US adults feel. 81% will not answer a call from an unrecognized number, according to Pew Research Center. And this is a major problem for companies like Dynata, whose voice services sector has a main business in conducting phone services. So we have an approach to help the voice services sector grow by implementing a marketing campaign, as well as digitizing the business and implementing strategic partnerships. The first recommendation is to invest in social media marketing because these are advertisements that can go a long way. Nowadays, this is one of the main ways that companies communicate with masses of people, especially the younger generations. Sharing messages on these channels can help build brand recognition and also improve Dynata's image while marketing the survey app and other aspects of the business. This will increase Dynata's brand exposure and overall the number of people who sign up for surveys. Looking at some large social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or Twitter, it costs an average of $7.81 for 1,000 impressions. This means that to reach 1 million people, Dynata Voice Services would only need to spend $8,000. And this is major because that means that even if only 25% of viewers were impacted by the advertisements, that would still be 250,000 changed minds.
90% of the data that Dynata collects come from the online side of the business, while the rest is through the voice service. However, there is no platform shared between the two. A solution is to add the voice survey component to the app. This hybrid approach has the potential to save a lot of expenses. So when a user logs into the app, they are prompted to log in through their phone numbers and not their email IDs. This can save the issue of multiple logins. Here, they can also be made into a known customer or a preferred customer to bypass the TCPA or the Telecommunication Protection Act regulation. The financial impact of that is discussed ahead. After that, a series of general questionnaire can be presented, and based on that, a personality map can be made of the user. So if I am interested in automobile, technology, and social, my personality map will look something like this. To avoid the issue of unexpected calls, the app user can schedule the call. This can save Dynata's interviewers a lot of time and expenses while increasing the call conversion ratio. Apart from just monetary incentives, there should be an option to donate the amount to a charity. This can also motivate people to take part and complete the survey. Dynata can partner with a number of charities like Cancer Research or Puppy Foundation and give their panelists an option to choose the charity they want to donate to. After the donation, an e-certificate can be generated for the record of the user and the charity. From our analysis, we found out that Dynata is calling landlines more than cell phones. In the era we live in, most of the families do not have a landline connection at all. The reason why they call landlines more than cell phone is the TCPA or the Telecommunication Protection Act. TCPA does not allow Dynata to use auto dialers on cell phone numbers unless they are a known customer. Our solution will ensure that Dynata can call these app holders using auto dialers if they are unable to fill the online surveys. The extra cost of manual dialing a cell phone number can be eliminated, and for 10 million calls, this can save Dynata around $370,000. Just for reference, Dynata made 500 million calls last year. As of now, Dynata has to make an average of 200 unique calls in 2.5 to 3 attempts to reach a person to get a response. And for 10 million calls and 10,000 responses, it can cost them $5.33 million. After a solution of integration with app, personality mapping, and scheduling, we can reduce this number to 20 unique calls and 1 to 1.2 attempts per person, which will cost them around $2 million for the same capacity. This can lead to a saving of over $3.3 million. The savings can be used to further incentivize the voice survey panelists to further law them. This solution will also increase the app retention. Now we are stepping towards our long-term solutions, which are aimed towards strategic partnership and generating new sources of revenue. Our first recommendation is partnering with a mobile carrier. This can be incredibly helpful for Dynata as these companies own most of the mobile data and have a lot of impact in what is flagged as spam and what is not. We recommend partnering with a smaller or a budget carrier like Cricket Wireless or Mint Mobile first, since they will be most willing to offer discounts or options to customers and capture the market share. Assuming that a Dynata partners with a smaller carrier like Mint Mobile, Mint Mobile can offer the same package they used to offer with a discounted rate, provided their customers are willing to answer some voice surveys from Dynata. This can lead to assured response for Dynata. Cheaper plans mean more customers for Mint Mobile according to elasticity of demand, and customers get discounted packages. This is a win-win situation for everyone. I was able to talk to a director of product development at Intuit, the company which owns Mint Mobile, and he was very interested in such kind of business partnership.
Our final recommendation is for Dynata Voice Services to partner with luxury brands. These are brands that typically have higher profit margins and put more effort into creating a holistic experience for their customers. To explain how Dynata can help these brands, we'll first discuss how luxury brands currently monitor the customer experience. And that is through post-purchase questionnaires. These are short surveys that typically ask generic questions like, please rate your satisfaction with your visit or your product. However, these questionnaires assume that the customer has already made a purchase from the brand, meaning that they're probably already satisfied with the brand to a certain degree. Also, a sales associate could simply choose not to give a customer a survey if they believe the customer would respond negatively. Furthermore, of the people who walk into a luxury store, only about 10% of them actually purchase an item. This means that surveying people after purchase ignores about 90% of potential customers. So clearly the current approach that luxury brands has is currently ineffective, and that is where Dynata can come in. Dynata is an unbiased, neutral agent who can help measure the customer experience from the perspective of both buyers and non-buyers, providing the brands with a more comprehensive set of data. Dynata can target certain demographics and use voice surveys to gather more candid information about brands. And this way, the businesses can get unbiased feedback and understand how they can focus their business to achieve a better customer experience that they value so much.
So in conclusion, to get back to the level of success Dynata Voice Services saw in the 80s, we recommend focusing on improved brand recognition through a marketing campaign while implementing more technological and strategic partnership for the future. This way, Dynata can save over $3 million in revenue and open up new sources of revenue. Now, I would like to take the time to thank our host, Aaron and Troy, our professors, Pam, Annette, and Julie, and the TAs. And thank you to the team members who couldn't make it here right now.
Okay, thank you guys. Now we're going to turn to a project for a company called Danfoss. This semester-long project formed the backbone of a new course I taught in the fall semester, Special Topics in International Consulting. The purpose of this course is to provide students with a background in and opportunity to experience project design and strategy consulting in an organizational setting. Project design in this case is fundamentally about identifying and solving the problems that prevent an organization from moving forward, from realizing its goals. A team of 8 students worked with one of CLE's client partners, Danfoss, a global leader in the design and manufacture of energy-efficient HVAC and power systems. In this case, Danfoss had the overarching goal of expanding its share of the US market for rooftop air conditioning components. The students were charged with identifying how to make it easier for the designers of these units to select Danfoss components. Ultimately, they realized that the designers needed a process that easily incorporated all the stakeholders in the decision and a comprehensive tool that made component selection and unit design intuitive. Here you go, guys.
All right, so thank you for the introduction. As Pam mentioned, Danfoss is a multinational company that creates HVAC components and has over 28,000 employees. And with any huge company, it's really hard to implement change. But COVID actually brought about a great opportunity for Danfoss. Because of COVID, the EPA is requiring that there be updated protocols to decrease airborne spread of the virus through increasing ventilation and improved air filtration. So what that essentially means is that there has to be an increase in demand for new air conditioning units. Additionally, in 2023, the EIA is requiring that all central air conditioning and air source heat pumps sold in the US meet a new minimum industry efficiency standard. And what this means is that rooftop unit designs will need to be updated. So these two circumstances create a great opportunity for Danfoss. It helps them give the opportunity to increase their 3% of market share in the rooftop AC unit industry in the North American region. And to determine the strategy on how to do exactly that, we interviewed 17 of Danfoss clients or OEMs and try to understand how Danfoss could add value to their design process.
So using those interviews, we were able to identify 4 main pain points that helped guide our solution. One of the major pain points were selecting the components itself. We realized that most of the OEMs having troubles to understand all the complicated settings that they have to input into the software to just find only one component. This is especially problematic for people who are new to the industry and thus need more time and explanation to get the right results. Moreover, if you even select the right component, most of the softwares are missing pricing and lead times information. So even if you find the best component, but then you go to your procurement team, they may just cancel your order because you don't satisfy the requirement for this specific company, which creates a number of inefficiencies and a number of feedback rounds that has to be done to get the right component. The third pain point is confusing system balancing software. And this point goes even further because as we realize for smaller OEMs, it's even problematic to have that software. And even if they do have it, it's usually a low quality software that produces not accurate results. And finally, the fourth pain point is lacking platform projects, which also known as being standardization. So when OEMs design their rooftop units, they cannot design it for different capacities as they wanted it to be, which means that every time they have to design the same rooftop unit, but for different capacity, they have to start the process all over again, which takes a huge amount of their time from their potential new orders. So having analyzed the pain points, we also looked at what are the in-house capacities that Danfoss has that we can utilize and add value to the OEMs. The first important thing is that Danfoss has 60% of rooftop unit components, which makes them a perfect candidate to deliver those components to OEMs. The second thing is that they already own component selection software that is available either as a desktop application or an online store. However, they still don't provide pricing information, which we identified can be included in such a software. And finally, they do have system balance capabilities in-house, which is also known as A3S, where OEMs can book the service in the Danfoss facilities and set up a temp with them to work with their software to balance their capabilities. So we decided to combine all the in-house capabilities that Danfoss had and tailor them to the specific needs of the OEMs. And so the solution that we came up is to develop a comprehensive software tool for rooftop unit design that positions Danfoss as a one-stop shop for OEMs. And I will hand it over to Federico to show you specifically what it means.
Part of our proposal, we developed a prototype of our solution that is basically a combination of different softwares that Danfoss currently have. So the OEM engineer will log into the platform and will have the option to start a new project or open an existing project. The software will ask them to fill the requirements that they receive for their clients, and will have the chance to create a platform project that is basically a standardization method where they can use a single design for multiple capacities. After that, they will be able to design their circuit of the unit, picking the components that they will need and the amount of components they will need. After creating the circuit, they go to component selection, where they use the circuit they build to choose the components, for example, and using the compressor. And after they complete 100% of the component selection, they can go to system balancing, where the software will test if all the components they choose can work together and meet the requirements of the client. If there's something wrong, the system will tell them as suggestions, so they can apply the suggestion instantly, or they can modify manually. If they choose to modify manually, they go back to component selection and they change the component that is creating some error. If everything is fine, the system will allow them to continue in the bill of materials, where they can do the commercial evaluation, having the price and the lead time of all the components in one single place, and they can export the file to share with the rest of their team. So basically, our solution in one hand will allow OEMs to have an intuitive way of select components, since they can now use the circuit to go through the entire process of selection. They will have an instant commercial evaluation without the need of a communication by email to Danfoss representatives, and they will have an efficient system balancing in a single place. And on the other hand, will allow Danfoss to increase sales in the North American region, will maximize in-house capabilities, now that they will combine all their software in one single platform, and it will strengthen a brand awareness of Danfoss, since now Danfoss will be present throughout the entire developing process, not just in the component selection. So we began this project having a broad problem, how to increase Danfoss' current market share in the North American region. Then we disaggregate the problem using tools like decision trees. Then we prioritize based on the customer needs and Danfoss capabilities. We analyze, and finally, we communicate our solution to the client.
And And finally, we wanted to say thank you for this amazing opportunity to work with international company Danfoss, and also working closely with our faculty members. This was an extremely helpful and useful project for us, where we had a chance to improve our problem solving skills as well as prototyping and designing skills. So thank you so much.